Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Wes Decker, and while I don't fancy myself a professor, let's start with a little review today, shall we? Just what lessons have we learned since our last show? Well, let's see. Talking to Sean Penn won't land your life story on the silver screen. It will land your butt in jail. When wearing a wig and sunglasses as a disguise and calling yourself Billy is what happens in Vegas, it doesn't stay in Vegas when you're Johnny Manziel. I mean Billy Football. Speaking of football, in the NCAA, we know the Alabama Crimson Tide captured the title of national champs. And in the NFL, we found out that the Texans, Redskins, and Vikings weren't destined to become Super Bowl champions this year, and neither were the Bengals, who in a matter of seconds did claim a dubious designation, Kings of Stupidity, thus knocking some 19,000 people who had ascended to that throne earlier in the week off their perch. It seems that the excitement of watching paint dry and grass grow has been replaced by a streaming phone app that throngs of subscribers around the world use to monitor the lifespan of a puddle of water in northeast England. Meantime, in Moscow, there's a new fragrance in the air inspired by Russian President Vladimir Putin. The cologne, smelling of lemon, black currant, and fir cones, is called Leaders No. 1 and sells for a cool $95 a bottle. American. Even a young American, a.k.a. the man who sold the world, would have had trouble making that sale. Rest in peace to the iconic David Bowie, who died Monday of liver cancer at the age of 69. Just to underscore how eclectic a legend he was, Bowie's death spawned tweets from the likes of Yoko Ono, the Rolling Stones, J.K. Rowling, and Kanye West. Not exactly personalities known to hang out together. Relative to our show, as the late Rock and Roll Hall of Famer sang, let's dance. My partners today include Bob Parsoliti with girls basketball and Kevin Dunleavy with boys hoops. But first, I try not to step on the toes of the two county wrestlers who won individual Hub Cup titles for North Hagerstown this past weekend. I do intend to lead, though. They're here when you come back.
This is our home. It's where we've all decided to put down roots and raise families, not because we had to, because we wanted to. And as a business owner, you pour every ounce of energy into doing what's right for you in this community, and you won't and you don't stop until you get what you want, and neither do we. We're Antietam Cable Productions, and it's time to stand up and be seen and heard. You have a voice, and we'll help you tell your story. Antietam Cable Productions, putting the beat into the heart of your business.
Well, Eric and I worked for a long time together in the corporate restaurant world, and we decided that we wanted to put the fun back into food.
We do our food our way. We take the traditional and spin it.
We change our menu regularly. We have specials that are creative. Great food, great service in a warm and friendly environment where you can be in jeans and a t-shirt next to someone in a business suit and everyone feels comfortable.
Welcome back to the show. We continue with wrestling and specifically the Hub Cup, the 29th annual Hub Cup contested at North Hagerstown this past Friday and Saturday. And two victorious Hubs are here to join me now, Brian Stewart and Isaiah Brooks. So welcome to the show, guys, and congratulations on your victories. I think by far this one of the biggest and the most competitive Hub Cups ever. And Brian, let me start with you. You were in an interesting position come the finals because you saw a guy that you wrestled last year in the finals, and this year at 120 against Daniel Planta, you get the victory. 1-0, an escape in the second period was the only point that was scored. Talk to me a little bit about getting that rematch. I know what was on your mind was getting the win. It really didn't matter who it was against, but talk a little bit about that match.
It was surprising to me that I wrote him out, but I was just excited again to be in the finals, of course, for the second year. My main point going into that match was to win. It wasn't mainly for revenge or to beat him specifically, but it was just to win.
Sure, he was just the guy in the way. That's the guy you had to go through to get that title. What's it mean to you to win a Hub Cup championship? I mean, you've won an awful lot of wrestling matches in your career, state champion last year. So where does this rank for you?
It's definitely an accomplishment because I beat the #1 kid in the state. So it shows where I'm at and where my level of wrestling is.
Now, you say there was no revenge in wrestling him, but did you feel like you had perhaps a little something to prove, given the fact that he was ranked number 1 in the state ahead of you?
Well, I didn't know that going into the match, but after the match, that's when
okay.
I found out,
Okay.
and then it was good to know.
Feels awfully good, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I was waiting for the backflip. I mean, is that just for state championship bouts?
I was, I thought about that before. I was like, if I end up winning this match, should I do a backflip or should I just,
Right.
just shake hands and walk off?
Sure. First things first, though. Get the win, and congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Isaiah, at 152, you win the championship there. I know you were overcoming a lot of disappointment from last year, the way your season ended last year with the dislocated elbow at regionals. You get to check this accomplishment off your list. Talk a little bit about your match, though, because you fell behind very early in that match, didn't get the lead until late, and once you got it, then he took it right back, and then you had to tie it late in order to get it to overtime. But apparently you were supremely confident in that match going to overtime. You had a feeling you were going to win it there.
Yeah, because we trained hard, so I knew my conditioning was up there. So I was like, yeah, and I looked at his face, and he was just like, I was like, yeah, I got this. Come on. And, like, his coach just kept, like, going over to the head table. I'm like, no, like, get it started. Like,
Right.
trying to, like, finish this.
Let's go now.
Yeah,
Let me use
I don't
this
want
to
no
my
breaks.
advantage.
I don't want no
Right.
breaks. And I'm, like, 12 seconds into it, I got 2. I was like, yeah.
Now, when it comes to wrestling, when you would break it down percentage-wise, how much of being a successful wrestler is physical versus mental?
Physical, it helps a lot, but it's mostly right here and right here. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think you showed that. And the smile that I see there, the same smile that you had on that podium, what was it like ascending the podium there in your home gym as a senior, Hub Cup champion? Put those feelings into words.
It felt really good, actually. I already knew it was going to be a good feeling, but, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be that good of a feeling. Like, I was like, wow. And, like, especially because my last year and it was my last chance to win one, so I was like, I got to get this done. And then when I did, I was just like, it just felt good, so.
And when we talk about the mental side of it, your brother Aaron had wrestled right before you at 145, wrestling the top-ranked guy in the state in his weight class, loses in 4 overtimes. How do you get your head right away to get on the mat to wrestle? Because I know you and your brother are pretty tight.
Yeah, we are. It didn't work out for me too well, like the first 30 seconds, but then I was like, you can't go home with 2 Brooks losing, so I was like, I gotta pull myself together. I gotta try and win my own. And I mean, it did hurt me, believe it or not, but
No, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it, certainly. I mean, blood is thicker than water, as they say, and that was a tough deal for your brother, for sure.
Yeah.
But congratulations
Thank you.
on your championship. And then later in the night at 285, Brendan Nagati from South Hagerstown. Here's a guy that, 2 years ago as a sophomore, nobody really ever would have thought that he would accomplish anything that he has been able to do now as a senior. Last year as a junior, wins a region title. This year he wins a Hub Cup title. I know you and Brian both know him fairly well. Talk about this accomplishment for him to win a Hub Cup championship.
he's probably really happy too. I mean, we were with him Sunday, I think, and yeah, he's happy too. I can't speak for him right now.
Well, I'll tell you, when you looked out there on the mat, and Brandon's no small guy.
Nah.
But his opponent looked like he had a few pounds on him. And Brandon did a great job in that second period of scoring all of his points in that period. And then in the third, I was really impressed with the fact that he was able to stay on top of him and really kind of dictate that match.
That kid was gassed.
He was.
He had I heard he had like an asthma attack or something. They carried him out on a stretcher, like this little mask.
Yeah, that's a tough deal for him. But for Brandon, just a tremendous accomplishment. And as a team, Brian, it had to be a little bit disappointing to see another team win the championship there in Good Counsel. Again, ranked 49th in the state, or rather 49th in the United States, first in the state. So as a team, to see somebody else kind of raise that trophy, put that into words a little bit. You guys still finished third in a very tough field.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of disappointing, but at the same time, like, if you know that they're good and like some of our kids beat some of their kids, then it goes hand in hand. Like, you get happiness from it and you get sadness from it because they earned it.
Yeah, I think everybody who accomplished anything at the Hub Cup over the weekend certainly earned it. Yeah. And once again, congratulations to you guys and appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'll be back right after this. I've got boys basketball. I'll be joined by Kevin Dunleavy in just a moment.
Antietam Cable's WCL-TV invites you to take a tour of local restaurants from the comfort of your couch with our local dining guide, airing now. Your host, Sam Little, goes beyond just the dining room and sits down with local owners and chefs to talk about what makes their restaurants local favorites. We explore the best of American cuisine, head south of the border for a little heat, and travel over the Atlantic for some of Italy's best. Washington County is a hotspot for great food, and we're showing you what you've been missing with WCL-TV's local dining guide, airing now on Channel 30 and in HD on Channel 489.
Tony's Pizza in Williamsport has had the same simple philosophy since 1985. Start with simple products. Sauce from the best Italian tomatoes. The best cheese and dough made fresh every day. Then mix those with a great atmosphere and you'll have the best dining experience you can find. Tony's is known for their pasta dishes, subs, pizzas, and specialty items like their Nutella Dots and the famous Crazy Tony. Simply put, they want to give the best food they can give to their customers. So stop in today to Tony's Pizza in Williamsport.
Sports fans rejoice! Antietam Cable's sports package delivers all your sports action, including NFL Red Zone and MLB Network. Don't miss a touchdown, three-pointer, or home run from your favorite teams in your region or across the country. From pro to college to life in the great outdoors, Antietam Cable has your sports coverage. Sports Plus. Order now and get 60 days free. Instant activation with a digital box. Call Antietam Cable now, 301-797-5000.
Welcome back to the show. We continue now with basketball and boys basketball at that. And joining me is Herald Mail insider Kevin Dunleavy. Kevin, now welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Wes.
I'd like to start with Saturday night's game. The private schools going head-to-head with St. James coming in with a record of 9-2 against St. Maria Goretti at 10-7. And on the line was the right to host the IPSL championship game. So we knew these two teams would be meeting again. And the Saints got off to a great start in the game, led 13-9 after the first quarter. At least it looked good on the surface, but they turned the ball over 10 times in that opening quarter. The Golden Boys, Grant and Bryce, combined for all 13 points for St. James. So it was a good start all in all, given the turnovers. But Goretti got its offense untracked in the second period behind Amika Akaya, who tied it at 13 with a driving hoop. And that was a theme of the night for St. Maria Goretti, going against those taller guys on the St. James side. They just kept taking the ball to the rim. They weren't afraid to go inside. In fact, their first non-layup didn't come until Jake Kuhn's bucket, which knotted the game at 19. Dante Dolman, who fearlessly drove that ball inside all night, then gave Goretti its first lead at 22-20 coming in the second quarter. And the Gales outscored St. James 5-1 the rest of that period to take a 27-21 lead to the half. And Goretti kept rolling after the break, opening up its biggest lead at 9 on sophomore Josh Mack's three-pointer late in the third, but St. James wasn't about to go away. And when Grant Golden's 16-footer went down just under midway through the fourth, the Saints had their first lead since early in quarter number 2, and from there, the teams proceeded to trade the lead 7 times before Jordan Bartlett's lay-in tied the game for the 5th time to send it to overtime, knotted at 47. And there, Mack, a guy who really hadn't figured in much this year for Goretti, really probably playing because Elijah Clarence was out with an injury, hit a big three to start the extra session, and the Gales would go on to outscore St. James 12-7 to earn the right to host that championship game a week from this Saturday by posting a 59-54 victory over the team they'll see in that particular game. And Kevin, is it a surprise to you at all that Goretti would employ that strategy of taking the ball right at those bigs of St. James?
Not at all, because they have a depth edge, and and they have a quickness edge, so they can get to they can get the ball inside like that, and maybe force some foul trouble, and that was probably a pretty good strategy against them. If it wouldn't surprise me last year when they met in the regular season, and then in the IPSL title game they flipped the result, and it wouldn't surprise me if St. James adjusted and came in with a better game plan to deal with what Goretti is doing.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Preet of St. James on Monday night, and he wasn't all that happy with his team's effort in that game. Of course, anytime you lose and there's something on the line, but St. James, I think, will be ready for that game. Craig Lacente, who's been out now for almost a month, Coach Preet says he doesn't know if he'll be back for that game, but they hope to have him back. So we'll see if both teams are at full strength for that one. But a good win for St. Maria Goretti for sure. Last Tuesday, on Monday's show, we talked about how North Hagerstown was off to such a great start, and obviously the Hubs are. Right now, 8 victories and 2 losses. But as we were leaving after we taped last week's segment, you said it wouldn't surprise me at all if Williamsport beat North on Tuesday, and the Wildcats went out and did that. And it just seemed to me, we were both at the game, it seemed to me that Williamsport was just much more inspired at the beginning of that game. What did you see that made the difference in that one?
Well, Williamsport was coming off a tough loss to Greencastle in their tournament final, and I think they were very motivated to sort of get back to the perch of where they've been, one of the top couple of teams in the county, and doing that against North was a perfect time to knock them off. And North has pressured a lot of teams and forced a lot of turnovers, and that's hard to do against Williamsport because they do handle the ball very well. And North never got that. They had spurts of, causing turnovers and getting easy baskets off it, but not near as many as they usually have, during their 7-game winning streak, which of course came to an end that night.
And Williamsport also finally got some good, consistent outside shooting. Both Jake Arnone and Michael Riley were on fire that night.
Yeah, and it looks like they've really got to have their big 3 to scoring and contributing, and all 3 were doing well that night. I don't think Marquia Nelson had a lot of points that night, but he passed the ball very well and was a force on defense. So beyond those 3, they get sort of minimal contributions from other guys that fundamentally are sound, but it's really those 3 that have to carry them.
And do you think it was a little bit of the case that North and their inconsistent starts in a way sort of caught up with them? That was the 5th straight game where they trailed at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, you just can't keep coming back, and then you've got to hit some threes in those situations to make those big deficits up. And they got it down to 1 point. They did a good job getting back into the game, but sometimes to sustain that when you have to come back from that big of a deficit, which I think was 16 points at one point, it tires you out and makes it tough to sustain it because they're not real deep. So.
Yeah, Coach Grable had to be happy with his team's effort. Yep. I think Coach Hartman had to be happy with his team's resolve in coming back. And Williamsport gets the win in that game by a score of 64-54. And then after that, North comes back. They play Smithsburg on Friday night. And that was a game that was not an aesthetically pleasing one by any means. Not a whole lot of points in that game, but North gets back on the winning track, beating Smithsburg 47-36. You saw Williamsport against South Hagerstown. Both of us are still trying to figure out South Hagerstown at this point. Williamsport loses at South 59-52, and then South turns around on Monday and loses big to St. James in a game where St. James certainly was the heavy favorite, but you would have thought that perhaps South would put up a little more resistance at home, although the Saints started slowly. Coach Preet got on his guys. They wind up winning that game by 22 points. So I don't think there are any big surprises there, but now going forward, it sets us up for some pretty big games this week.
Yeah, North plays South, and that's always a great rivalry game. This year, it's going to be a really interesting game because South's got a long winning streak in the county, 13 games against public school teams that they've won, and right now I think North would be in better position going into that game. They're more cohesive, definitely, than South, but South's got a lot of talent. And if Kevin Naylor can get the right rotation going and get them rolling, they'll be tough.
And Clear Spring Williamsport.
Yep, another excellent game. Clear Springs only lost one time. That was to North in overtime when they blew a 10-point lead with 4 minutes left. So they've been tremendous, and they probably see themselves as the best team in the county, and maybe they are. They've got a thin rotation, and they have to keep three guys healthy. Jared Lazich, Joey Fisher, and Spencer Schultz, and those guys can't be in foul trouble. But it's a delicate, fragile maybe formula that they've got. But boy, it's really working so far.
Yeah, we're going to have some interesting results to talk about next week. And also just want to say congratulations to Coach Bernie Klutz at Broad Fording on his 200th victory as head coach there. So congratulations to Coach Klutz. Thank you very much, Kevin. We'll talk more basketball next week. I'll be back in just a moment. Got girls basketball with Bob Parsiliti right after this.
Look how cute we are. I want to puke on us.
From the producer of Bridesmaids.
I'm just a modern chick who does what she wants. And relationships aren't my thing.
I think we really like each other and we should start dating.
No.
Yes.
No. I slept at the doctor's place last night. What were you, drunk? No, I had like 2 drinks. 3 max. 4 now that I'm tallying.
Trainwreck, unrated.
Digital customers, tune to Channel 1 to get started. Welcome back to the show. We continue with girls basketball now, and Herald Mail insider Bob Parsiliti joins me. Bob, once again with the girls, as we talked about last week, as we kind of caught everybody up on what had been transpiring to that point, Williamsport on top of the heap as far as the public schools are concerned. And a big week, as we mentioned last week, for Williamsport in that the Wildcats had 3 games on the schedule. Always tough to do, I think, too, when you're coming right out of that holiday break. I know they had their tournament that they played in, but still 3 games in that week right after the holidays. And Williamsport didn't show any ill effects at all. They handled the 3 games with ease, winning all 3 of them to run the record to 8-2.
Well, they opened with North Hagerstown, and they played some great defense. And, they did a great job of trying to neutralize Natalie Carlin, who's the top scorer in the county right now, and kind of slowing her down a little bit. Coach Kevin Murphy said if we could keep her under 30, we'd be okay. They did that. They kept her at 23. But, they were able to do what they wanted to do. And I think what happened in all 3 of these games, which is pretty important for Williamsport, was the fact that they lost Sydney Hockensmith to an ACL injury, and they really needed to find somebody to help do the glue. She's kind of like the one that did a little bit of everything for them. And Kevin had said that he was looking to try to use all these different girls, but none of them had the same skill set as Sydney had. And he was able to move and get experience for each one of those girls in each of these 3 games, and they all contributed, and they seem to starting to get back to a form where they could be formidable again.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe the loss of Sydney Hockensmith is to go to the statistics and say that she was second on the team in scoring, rebounds, assists, and steals. So clearly, she was one of those players who affected all categories of stats and did a little of everything, as you said.
But she was like the backup singer because she they have a big 3 that they talked about all the time, and she was in the background doing all this stuff that kind of was the glue to keep things going.
Yeah, and I think only coming into this year, though, because this year I think her ascension was going to be among those players, if not, and again, she was second on the team in all of those categories before the injury, and I think one of those players that we're talking about in that big 3, Olivia Coleman, absolutely sensational over that 3-game stretch against North, South, and Hedgesville. 56 points, 26 rebounds, 9 block shots, and that's something that Coach Murphy can rely on. Now, we talked about who was going to step up in the absence of Hockensmith. Well, Caitlin Murphy has 3 big games. I mean, her totals there, 29 points, 6 3-pointers made. Taylor Neff, a sophomore, all of a sudden she steps up. 22 points, 18 rebounds over those 3 games. So it's not that all of a sudden they've found the answers, but they're starting to find that there are some players who can step in and provide some of what has been missing.
And the big part in this, though, is when Sydney was playing, they went with the flow. These girls that are coming in now have to be situational. They have to fit in certain times, and they've gone in and did the jobs in the times that they were needed.
Yeah, 205 to 75, the cumulative total of those games that they played, those last 3 games, the score. So Williamsport very dominant in those games. Huge game coming up on Tuesday. We tape on Tuesday, so we don't know the outcome of the game right now. But at Walkersville, that's a big game as it applies to the region down the line. Walkersville comes into that game 10-1.
Well, that's one of those games that are kind of like the barometer or the measuring stick. I mean, at the beginning of the year, Williamsport was one of those schools that Williamsport would have to get by in order to get into the playoff or go far in the playoffs, and so this will give them an idea. I don't think that they'll see, it won't be what I think the finished product will be come March.
No, and another game that I think will be one of those barometer games on Tuesday, North Hagerstown and Boonesboro. Boonesboro, a team that's played only 1 game since the break. North Hagerstown played 2. You mentioned the loss to Williamsport, where North gave up a ton of points. Not only did they get shut down offensively, but they gave up 81 points. They come back against Smithsburg. They get a team that likes to get up and down, much like they do. But North imposed its will, really, turning turnovers into easy points, scoring 79 themselves. So now you got a team that might be believing in itself a little bit. You talk about Natalie Carlin. Certainly she's the engine that makes that team go. But can North come together now with a little bit of confidence and play well against a Boonesboro team who still seems to be searching a little bit for that identity after the way that they've raised the bar the last several seasons? Is Boonesboro going to get on a roll here, or is North going to put themselves in a position where all of a sudden they're a formidable team and a team that we need to talk about more?
Well, I think both of these teams are kind of in the same boat. Boonesboro desperately needs to have somebody handle the ball for them. They have a lot of people that can score if they get the ball. They need somebody to distribute. So, I mean, that's the big key for Boonesboro to be successful. For North, they have to get more people believing in what they're doing. Natalie Carlin does a great job of doing her own thing and creating things, but she creates for herself. And that's one of the problems that Coach Kathy Parsons sees. She thinks that she will be able a lot better if she distributes the ball, and she doesn't. But there's a lot of girls that really don't want the ball right now.
Yeah, I think it's tough for her to find somebody who she can trust once she gets them the ball anyway. And Carlin, 62 points in the last 2 games that she's played, including a career-high 39 last Friday against Smithsburg. And I wanted to mention St. James now 5-5. The Saints have won 4 games in a row, and I don't know that a lot of people gave St. James a chance against the South Hagerstown team that admittedly has not won a game this year, but on Monday night, St. James going to South. You would think that South, who has shown some flashes this season without a victory against St. James, but St. James coming in with all kinds of confidence. Of course, Nate Naylor, who was the coach at South, coming in with this St. James team, and they get the win. Very low-scoring game, 30-23, but that's how St. James has been winning as of late. As I said, they've won 4 in a row to go to 5-5, and they've averaged 33 points per game, allowing just 21.5 over that stretch. So St. James still, as Coach Naylor said after the game, we need to find more players who can put the ball in the basket. But to get to 5-5 now kind of reminds me of last season where they started off struggling and then they just strung a bunch of victories together. So it's a very young team trying to grow up.
Well, there's a lot of teams that have trouble finding the basket right now.
Well, it's true.
St. Maria Goretti's has trouble. They have played a really tough schedule, but they've been on the short end of a lot of them just because they can't get enough points. And then you throw in the Hancock and St. James and Clear Spring and South. Most of them are just very, very young teams. And, in order to be good, especially in girls basketball, you have to have more than 1 or 2 people that can do something. And they're searching for that in a lot of cases.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they find here down the road. Still plenty of season left. Bob, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here this week. Next week on the show, the focus will be a sport that we didn't talk about this week, indoor track and field. County championships coming up on Friday. Thanks for watching this time around. I'll see you next time on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers. We gotta get up in the streets.